Hello friends, have you ever noticed that some students, in spite of having profound knowledge of their subjects and a very good personality, still get a low score in interviews? This might be because of the controversial questions which are asked to them and they come to them. In this video, I am going to provide you a collection of do's and don'ts, some hints on how to stay safe when controversial questions are asked to you in interviews. Controversial questions are asked in interviews and quite often also in mails. This video is going to help you on them. I will form most of my examples around Citizenship Amendment Act. I don't intend to change your opinion on that, and I'm not going to elaborate on it, as I believe that your opinion would already be formed by now. My more focus is on communication and how avoid getting trapped in controversial questions. Point number one, avoid name calls. Don't invoke names. That is, point number one is about depersonalization. You should not take up the names of politicians or even political parties. Remember, CAA or CAB was not introduced by BJP. If you have to say, you must say that CAA has been an act which has been brought by the government of India. If at all you have to refer to BJP, for you, BJP is not BJP, BJP is rather the ruling party. Similarly, Congress and other parties are oppositions. So, when you avoid names, you give an appearance that you are depersonalized and you have nothing personal against or in favor of these politicians and political parties. Similarly, if you had to criticize Home Minister for the thing, you should not say that Amit Shah has retracted his statements, but rather Home Minister had retracted his statement. Or suppose if you were in favor of it, you could have said that Home Minister has given assurance. Prime Minister should give assurance. Don't say Narendra Modi or Amit Shah have given assurance or have not given assurance, whatever you believe. The second is avoid strong words. Never use words such as fascism, Nazism, autocracy, Holocaust. These strong words are not meant for you. They sound good in classrooms of political science and humanities, but definitely not from an aspirant who want to be a civil servant. Also, when you begin your arguments, this is now the most important point which I want to tell you, point number 3. When you begin your arguments especially and when you conclude them, and preferably also during the course of your arguments on such controversial questions, try to stay towards the center. Don't take extreme positions. For example, don't say that CAA will take away the rights of Muslims. Don't say CAA will alienate Muslims. Rather say that CAA has the possibility to cause anxiety amongst Muslims. This is an example. Suppose you believe that CAA is a bad act. So instead of saying that CAA will alienate Muslims or CAA will strike terror in the hearts of Muslims, you should say CAA has the possibility that it might cause anxiety amongst Muslims. CAA has the possibility that it might set bad precedent where reference to religious identities of citizens are made while framing laws. So here I am adding the fourth point, that keep an element of ambiguity. There's a difference in saying CAA will cause anxiety and CAA has the possibility to cause anxiety. There's a difference in saying CAA will set a bad precedent and CAA has the possibility to cause bad precedent. This is because even the most vocal supporter of CAA will not deny the fact that there is a possibility. Possibility can always be there. So in this way, your opinion will be more accommodative of the person, even if he carries a completely opposite view to you. So the person sitting across the table, even if he belongs to a different ideological camp, you will be able to accommodate him with your thoughts. Remember, interview is not a place to engage in ideological battles. It's not a place for meant for confrontations. If you engage, if you create a battleground there, it will turn out to be your graveyard, at least graveyard of your career. So why take the risk? And in a session of 15 minutes, it's almost impossible that you will be able to convert the ideology of the other person. So why take the risk? Stay towards the center. I don't mean that you have to be necessarily neutral. You can appreciate, you can criticize, that's up to you. But somewhat, that criticism should be mild, not very harsh. And don't use very strong, offensive, and passionate words. You should not look like passionate person here. When you're talking about passionate issues, you should not look like passionate. Should a civil servant be passionate? I believe he should be passionate when issues are non-passionate. When issues are passionate, he should be dispassionate. For example, should you be passionate about removing poverty? Yes. Should you be passionate about providing safety to the women? Yes. Should you be passionate about ensuring law and order in the country? Definitely yes. But should you be passionate about bringing in secularism or maintaining secularism? Well, maybe not. The reason being, how you define secularism is very subjective. Your definition of secularism may be communalism for someone else, and an act of communalism for you may be an act of secularism for others. For example, some people believe that true secularism is when uniform civil code would be enforced. And similarly, some believe that secularism should allow minorities to have their own personal laws and continue with triple talaq. So there is no unanimous definition, and often these subjective things can cause great controversies. So when issues are related to identities, issues are related to personal uh, laws and all these things, then you should give an appearance of dispassionate person. Remember that um, our when you go and appear in interviews and or you write exams, you do it after reading articles in newspaper. That's the main source of your information or of those who provide you information. Then these newspaper articles are written either by editors from the newspapers themselves or from the world of academia or sometimes from bureaucrats or sometimes from members of politicians. Except for the bureaucrats and except for the ruling party, all others are strongly anti-establishment in nature. So while academia almost world over is anti-establishment, the bureaucrats have a higher propensity for being pro-establishment. So in interview, your board might comprise of bureaucrats mostly. So that in that on that table you cannot bring up the romantic ideals which you have heard from the professors. Uh, so the point is that the words which people like Shajil Imam or Kanhaiya Kumar they use, or the president of student union, the kind of words which they use, they might appeal to the academia or to certain set of intellectuals, but they would definitely be distasteful to most of the bureaucrats. Next is, uh, when you talk about suppose protests here, then don't just focus on the manifest points over there. That is whether the idea behind this protest is good or not. But for any social event, you should also look into the latent function, what we call latent function in social sciences. That is those aspects which are hidden somewhat, were not originally intended. For example, these protests were what they were meant for: to stop CAA, to provide blockage to Citizenship Amendment Act. But some of the hidden outcomes or indirect outcomes or latent outcomes of these protests have been that civil society has been strengthened, that women have came to the front. Now, whether or not you agree, you might agree or disagree to what those women in Shining Bagh are demanding. But one thing which is universally accepted is that strengthening of civil society is a healthy trait and is good for the long-term health of a democracy. Similarly, women participation in these protests might motivate women tomorrow or in time to come to take up their demands, and then it will lead towards women empowerment. When you look up in these intricate issues, the interview board or your examiner would be impressed. Basically, you don't have to flare your emotions in the face of the examiner or the interview board. You rather have to show that you are a person who keenly observes these social phenomena with an objective outlook. So you have a keen sense of observation. This is what you have to show. And you should not be passionate about these things. And remember one thing, there's a difference in admiring a social event and and being fascinated by it. So you might admire the protest, that's fine. But don't show that you are fascinated by these protests. Being fascinated, especially by protests, is not a good attribute, especially expected from a civil servant, because as I said, bureaucracy is supposed to be pro-establishment. Next is, when you have to criticize, then choose your words very carefully. Suppose you had to say that BJP is a communal party. Don't say like that. BJP is a communal party. Or don't even say that all political parties are communal. Rather, rephrase it in a way that it looks more academic. For example, you could have said that the political system in India is based on adult franchise. The access to power depends upon how much voters a political party is able to mobilize in its favor, and that is why electoral parties they find it tempting to appeal to the religious identities of the people, and at times it creates disharmony among different religious communities. You basically said the same thing, but you paraphrased it in a way it looked more academic, and it didn't create a negative image of yours. So you don't have to look eclectic. That is, you don't have to or you sound as if a completely negative person, a pessimistic person. Not everything is negative in our country. So sometimes you also need to admire. I will again bring you back to where I started. Avoid names of both political parties or both individuals. Rather, address them by the roles they are performing or their designations. Secondly, avoid using strong, intense words and jargons. Reduce your criticism or your appreciation, whatever you perform, and stay somewhere, somewhat towards the center. Also, observe not just what everyone is talking about, but also try to look into some hidden aspects of a social phenomena or that controversial thing which is being asked to you. And one more thing I want to say, that don't be overconfident when you answer questions. Confidence is not something which is always good, because when you display an overconfidence or too much of confidence while answering these controversial questions, when you show that you have a firm opinion and you are crystal clear in your outlook towards it, when you give one-sided opinion, it is actually not confidence but vulgar confidence. This is going to be counterproductive. So do accept the ambiguity that the problem is really difficult to to enable us to arrive at a conclusive stand. This is because it has many multiple dimensions. Say it in a confident manner, in a confident tone, but do accept that there are possibilities and we can only try to understand that, and it's not easy task to arrive at a conclusive stand on them. Words as I've given you, such as use of words such as possibility, that there is a possibility this act might cause anxiety. Such words will not only tone down your criticism or tone down your appraisal of that event, but also show that you do understand that there are alternative views also on that issue. And whenever you present your criticism, then do bring in some one or two statements of the appraisal also. When you provide appraisal, then bring at least one statement of criticism also. So suppose you are someone who believes that CAA is a good act. Then if you say that Citizenship Amendment Act is a welcome step taken by the government of India because it tries to resolve the humanitarian crisis which has lingered on in the subcontinent for a long time, and this act enables and gives some minorities from our neighboring countries some rights and a dignified way of life in our country, then add here a sentence that we should ensure this act does not set wrong precedent of invoking religious identities, and we should ensure this act does not cause anxiety amongst Indian minorities and Muslims in particular. This way, it will project an image of yours that you are a person who has a holistic view of it. I've noticed in recent times that on issues such as CAA, many civil servant aspirants have been swayed by emotions and passion. Remember, you should not look like as if a protester from Shaheen Bagh or maybe a supporter from Jhandewala. You must look like a student and a person who has keenly studied Indian society, Indian political structures, all aspects of your syllabus with a very objective outlook. So, and the last thing is, when you're answering these questions, your voice modulation also matters. So don't raise the pitch of your voice. Don't say in a high pitched voice. Otherwise, it will look that you, as I said, high pitch usually gives an impression that you are swayed by emotions. And don't unnecessarily go in a very soft tone also. Don't unnecessarily reduce the pitch of your voice to an extent that it either starts looking artificial or the audience, that's examiner, board, are not able to understand it. So be at your natural voice and speak at a consistent pace, not too fast, not too slow, so that it looks that whatever you're speaking is coming from your head, that you are articulating well, you're thinking on an issue, analyzing it, you have the power to analyze, and that you're not getting swept by the gush of emotions. So friends, I hope this was beneficial to you. Please drop in your comments. My phone number and my email address will be visible in the description. You can contact me if there's any need. Thank you.